Call the January 22nd Village Board meeting to order. Trustee Lancy, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so first this evening we have a presentation by Mr. Eric Reynolds from the Webster Citizens Action League, and he will be speaking on common organics, pesticides, and herbicides found in our surface drinking water. Mr. Reynolds?
Hello, I'm Eric Reynolds from the Webster Citizens Action League. And as Mr. Cahill just mentioned, I'm talking about some of the contaminants that are in our water. So about 4 months ago, we approached the board about giving this presentation, and we're disallowed by the mayor. Thank you to the trustees for pressing him and allowing us to make this presentation. We were inspired to talk about this by Michelle Anderson's speech and presentation earlier this year when she was talking about surface water contamination and how it's getting worse every year. We looked into that and thought that we should bring it to the attention of the Webster residents. We are not here to compare Monroe County Water Authority water with the village water. We don't have village water anymore, so we're talking about the water that we do have. We're only talking about the Monroe County Water Authority and the surface water that is going into the lake that we are getting our water from. So along the Lake Ontario shoreline, the local surface water contamination is well documented. Two streams in the town of Webster, Mill Creek and Shipbuilders Creek, are listed moderately impacted by the New York State DEC, Division of Water Basin Management. The state of Shipbuilders Creek has resulted in specific action plan. The Shipbuilders Creek Stormwater Assessment and Action Plan by the Monroe County Department of Environmental Services. Recently, an article in the Democrat Chronicle, as of July 2nd, 2013, cited efforts by Senator Schumer to clean up contaminated local Lake Ontario water that causes numerous and frequent beach closures, which I'm sure you're all aware of, being in the news. And those threats from water to those who might swim in it. The Rochester embayment, the lower Genesee River, and the nearshore waters of Lake Ontario, from Webster to Parma, is one of 29 areas of concern in the U.S. on the U.S. side of the lakes, and have not been remediated at this point. So, as I said, the creeks in Webster that are most impacted are Mill Creek and Shipbuilders Creek. So, we do have a listing of contaminants that are in the Monroe County Water Authority water. They have to do just like we did when we had village water, they have to do a listing of everything that's in the water and whether or not it meets the current standards. And I want to note that currently their water, our water, does meet standards. But there are definitely some issues, and just because it meets the standards today doesn't mean it's going to meet the standards tomorrow. So some of the chemical contaminants that we have in our water now, one of the big ones is chlorine. So the testing of the Monroe County Water Authority has shown a chlorine content of 1.3 parts per million. At a level of 4 parts per million, people will become immediately physically sick. A study in the Journal of Public Health found that people who regularly drink water containing high levels of chlorine byproducts have a greater risk of developing certain cancers. The chlorine byproducts that are in the water are called trihalomethanes. The study estimates that about 9% of all bladder cancer and 8% of all rectal cancer cases are associated with long-term consumption of these byproducts. The President's Council on Environmental Quality states that there's an increased evidence for an association between rectal, colon, and bladder cancer and the consumption of chlorinated drinking water. A study conducted in Connecticut in 2013 found that women with breast cancer have 50 to 60% higher levels of chlorine byproducts in their breast tissue than cancer-free women. On the EPA website, studies show that an association between bladder and rectal cancer and chlorination byproducts in drinking water. A California study found that pregnant women who drank large amounts of tap water with high chlorine residuals had an increased risk of miscarriage. There are numerous documented complaints of Monroe County Water Authority water smelling strongly of chlorine, especially during the summer months. So another pharmacological contaminant in the MCWA water is caffeine. Again, I want to note that these contaminants are in compliance currently. This caffeine is a leading indicator of sewage in the water. There have been several reports of raw sewage discharge in Irondequoit Bay. Many studies on short-term exposure to caffeine, but few on the long-term exposure. The possible effects based on those studies are a rise in blood pressure in those already suffering from hypertension. People with hypertension were given 250 milligrams of caffeine, about the same amount of caffeine you'd have in 2 cups of coffee, and the data revealed that their blood pressure was elevated for about 2 to 3 hours after the caffeine. Gout attacks. The study showed that people who binge on caffeinated beverage increase their risk of gout flare-ups. Incontinence. A study out of the University of Alabama showed that women who consume a lot of caffeine are 70% more likely to develop incontinence. Insomnia. Everybody knows about insomnia if you drink a lot of caffeine, but we don't expect to get that caffeine out of our water. Indigestion. People who consume caffeinated beverages often report upset stomachs or indigestion. This mainly occurs when the beverages are consumed on an empty stomach. Caffeine can also cause headaches. Occasional doses of caffeine can relieve headache symptoms, but the overuse of caffeine can cause headache and leads to migraines. Caffeine can also reduce fertility in women. A study from the University of Nevada School of Medicine showed that caffeine can reduce a woman's chance of becoming pregnant by about 27%. Another contaminant in Monroe County water is cotinine. Cotinine is an alkaloid and it's found in tobacco and is a metabolite of nicotine. Exposure to concentrations of cotinine can cause nausea, vomiting, dizziness, drooling, weakness. E-cigarettes have suspended nicotine in water vapor. Long-term studies are underway to investigate investigate the effects. It has been found that long-term exposure can reduce nerve cells in rodents. And so the coditine in the water also indicates raw sewage in the water. That is where that comes from. Triclosan. So triclosan is found, and again I want to note that these contaminants are currently in compliance. Triclosan is found in a variety of products, including soaps, detergents, toys, and surgical cleaning treatments. They degrade and form a dioxin. They can remain in the sediment for decades. Currently, triclosan is being reviewed by the FDA after finding negative exposure after finding that negative exposure effects in animals. These effects, according to the Mayo Clinic, are altering of hormone regulation in animals. Studies in rats have shown a decrease in thyroid hormones with long-term exposure to triclosan. That it might contribute to the development of antibiotic-resistant germs and might be harmful to the immune system. A 2008 study by the Environmental Health Perspectives, which was designed to assess exposure to triclosan in a representative sample of U.S. children and adults, found triclosan in urine of nearly 70% of those tested. In May of 2014, Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton signed a bill legalizing a measure banning triclosan-containing products in the state. That law will go into effect January 1st, 2017. Another pharmacological contaminant in Monroe County water are xylenes. Again, they're in compliance at present. The major sources of xylenes in drinking water are from petroleum discharges. Xylene is colorless, sweet-smelling liquid that catches on fire very easily. It occurs naturally in petroleum and coal tar, and you can see that at the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. In the environment, xylene evaporates quickly from the soil and surface water into the air. Exposure over many years can cause nervous system damage and effects including headaches, lack of muscular coordination, dizziness, confusion, changes in one's sense of balance. Exposure of people to high levels of xylene for short periods can also cause irritation of the skin, eyes, nose, and throat, difficulty in breathing, problems with the lungs, delayed reaction time, memory difficulties, and stomach discomfort. We feel that it's important that people be aware that these contaminants are in the water. They are currently in compliance with the FDA. But as we all know, the FDA has changed what is in compliance over the years, as studies have come out that tell us that these things are bad for us. The fact that they're there and the long-term effects are not known scares me. And I just want everyone to know that they need to look at what they're doing with their water, what they're doing in their yards, what they're doing in the driveways. You can't just throw it out there because it all ends up in our drinking water now. Every place in Webster drains into the lake. So when you don't pick up after your dog, we get to drink it 2 years from now or there are a few studies that show the long-term effects of these pharmacological contaminants. And I expect as more and more studies, long-term studies come out, that the amounts that are allowed in the drinking water will go down significantly. That will mean that our water will become much more expensive because it will need to be filtered that much more. So everyone, as I said, should be aware of how to help keep our water unpolluted and try and keep away from dumping any sorts of petroleum products or and minimizing the amount of pesticides and defoliants and that sort of thing, because it does end up in our water supply. And many people now, and myself included, are filtering out their water and spending money on filters for their water systems. That's pretty much the end of my discussion. Peter, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Does anyone have
Mr.
any?
Mayor, may I speak for a minute?
Well,
Do you have
he's still
Yes,
presenting.
I do,
No, see, I'm sorry.
I'll accept any questions.
When he's ready for questions, you can ask him if you don't
Yep,
mind.
I'll accept any questions from anyone.
Okay, with caffeine, drinks and so on, I don't dump anything into water and that, but I have been drinking caffeine since I've been 5 years old, and I have not had any problems at all. And when I started drinking, they were cans and so on, and at that time, I did get rid of them into regular trash and so on, but now I'm recycling them.
Sure. As far as that's concerned, I'm glad that you haven't had any ill effects from drinking caffeine. And many people consume caffeine every day. But you know that you're drinking something with caffeine in it. If you're drinking a soda or you're drinking coffee or you're drinking tea, you know there's caffeine in there, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you drink your water, when you go get a glass of water, you don't expect there to be caffeine in there.
I don't drink water.
Well, okay.
I don't.
There you go. So you'll never get
water.
any caffeine from your water.
I don't even drink coffee.
Okay.
How often is that tested for?
So their requirements are very similar to what they're exactly the same as what the village went by. So I believe that there's a weekly test and then a monthly test, and they have larger. The monthly test is a more in-depth test. It covers more stuff.
And then they have a water quality report at the end of the year.
Right. Which encompasses a average of the year and it gives you a month by month. So, and like I said, Monroe County Water is compliant, just like we were compliant. The problem that I see is there are those items in the water, and we don't know how it affects us completely. So we need to be careful about how we handle water, and we need to be very careful about what we allow to get into our drinking water now, because the lake is where we're getting it, and everything that we do here ends up in the lake. Any other questions?
Another
I do, it's decaffeinated.
Very good.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and presenting.
Well, thank you for allowing us to,
I did have a question.
oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
Sure.
And I don't know, my question is in that, the Village of Webster obviously doesn't supply the water anymore.
Mhm.
Monroe County does supply the water. I wonder if you have had the opportunity, or do you plan on taking the opportunity to make this presentation to the Monroe County Water Authority?
we haven't made any plans to do that. And now that you bring it up, it may be something that we investigate.
Okay.
To let them know that, we are concerned, and, we're here to help, because we want to get out the word that, hey, you can't just pour things down the drain and down the sewers and storm sewers and expect it not to affect us, because it's all going out the lake, and our plant filters out a lot of stuff. Our sewage treatment plant takes care of a lot of that, but the storm water doesn't go through there, so it really is that's what's gonna be a problem.
Do you intend to make this presentation to the Webster Town Board?
I think that we will be trying to do that, yes. We haven't made any,
Since you have concerns about Shipbuilders Creek and Mill Creek?
right, absolutely. I think it's something that everyone really needs to know about. And, that what you put on your lawn and what you leave on your lawn is something that will be in our drinking water. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
As you all, I've said before, I have a problem with Monroe County water in my digestive system. I was talking to them again today, and they do recommend for drinking water, you decant it for 24 hours. Put it in an open pitcher before you drink it to alleviate the chlorine.
And that'll also get rid of the xylene content as well, if you leave it out. But the other thing is, you want to leave it out where you're not going to be breathing those fumes. Anything else?
There were 4 sources for Monroe County water. Do you know if all 4 sources have xylenes in them?
So I believe that only the sources that are coming from the lake, there's, I think, one well field that they draw from. I don't know if I have it here. I don't have their water sources here offhand.
I can help you with that. It's, of the 4, it's mostly coming from Shoremont and Hemlock Lake, with Shoremont being the greater source. Shoremont sucks in a ton of lake water, so
Right.
it goes back to there. It's on their water quality. You can find that in their water quality report.
If you want to look at their water quality report, the 2013 and prior is much easier to read than the newest one, the 2014.
Yeah, they have those right on their website.
Yep,
Yes.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they send them out once a year.
Right.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for
Thank you, sir.
allowing me to make this presentation, and have a good night.
All right. I'll open up the board meeting for public comments at this time. If anybody has anything, ask you to just give us your name, your address, and 5 minutes.
I won't be back. Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight. I was unable to attend the last meeting, but I understand that Eric Reynolds made some direct comments about the mayor targeting a former village employee who now works for the town. I know this employee, I've worked with her, I've met her family, and she's a good person. But before proceeding about this incident, it's important to place this issue in context. For the last 2.5 years, the mayor has repeatedly engaged in singling out and targeting specific employees. If it wasn't one, then it was another. Memos to employees seem to fly around village office demanding this or that, always seeming to imply that someone's job is at stake. I've come up here on several occasions, in fact, and asked this board to admonish the mayor for this behavior. I am fairly sure that some of you trustees, and perhaps all of you, have addressed the issue with him. Still, the behavior continues. I could stand here tonight and defend Anne-Marie Champagne, who this mayor has targeted again and again, but I hardly need to. She is more than capable of doing that herself, and backed up by her husband Jerry, they make a dynamic team. I would say that I've met few people with more integrity and innate goodness than Anne-Marie Champagne. What a shame it is that this mayor has sought to besmirch her good name. I say sought because your attempts seem to fail. All who know her hold her in high esteem. Remember in school when you read that book by Machiavelli, the medieval guy, the book was called The Prince? In that book, he talks about the qualities of leaders. He sums it up by saying that leaders are of two basic stripes. The bad ones are feared, the good ones are loved. Mr. Mayor, I believe that these trustees have tried to counsel you on being a good leader. I believe you have ignored them. You have spent 2 years terrorizing good people at Village Hall and good village employees. And I would recommend that it's time for you to think of your legacy. Will you be feared as a tyrant or loved as a true leader? Ponder that some Sunday. Perhaps you'll be enlightened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. And as I attempted to speak to Mr. Reynolds on this subject at the last board meeting, but wasn't able to do due to consistent interruptions, an issue was brought to my attention by our village clerk and our village deputy clerk. I solicited advice from not only our board members with respect to bringing this attention to the town of Webster supervisor, but I was also solicited advice from our village attorney. So, acting on advice of our village attorney and the advice of those trustees who read the information that I was provided, it was highly recommended that I bring this to the attention of the town supervisor. At no time ever was this meant to be a so-called witch hunt, or in the manner in which you have described here tonight. And that's all I'm going to say about this issue, and I'm not going to speak about it again. So I absolutely disagree with what you said tonight, and we'll just leave it at that. Anyone else this evening?
What'd you say? I didn't know anything about it at all.
All right, well, it's been communicated through email.
Well,
By
is
everybody.
everybody else?
Yes.
No, Al?
Well, Jerry, you were. I can't force you to read your emails. I can only provide the information. But Don, our own attorney, our attorney did weigh in and did recommend that I bring this to the attention of the town supervisor. So, there you go. Okay.
Richard Waller, 20 Elm Street. I just had a few comments here and questions. You've been in office over a year and a half. Over a year ago, the water went away. By the way, today I got my bill with the third increase since the water went away. And we still don't have a defined plan for what's going to happen to the well field. I see something on the agenda tonight. I hope soon we can find out how much what's going to happen and how much it's going to cost us. And I haven't heard anything in a long time on the old water tower that may or may not come down, the cell tower that may or may not replace it, and are we going to continue? It's been well over a year. It's about time, if we're going to put up a tower, that somebody starts thinking about this tower, because there's a lot of things involved in putting up a tower, not just the cost, but FCC would probably want to weigh in on this, and maybe even the FAA. Sticking something up in the air, I'm sure the FAA may want to have some comments, or at least have some regulations that would have to be complied to. We have not heard anything since basically a year ago when the water went away. At the time the water went away, or at the campaigning to do away with the water, you, Mr. Mayor, and others said, there's no cost, all we had to do is just turn the valve. Well, going back to what I've said at previous meetings, there has been costs involved. The $90,000 debt of the water department, which you, on behalf of the taxpayers of the village of Webster, forgave, thus putting the tax money, $90,000 of tax money that went up in smoke, so to speak. Other taxpayer money that's now involved in this is your wages. Part of your wages were paid out of the water department. Now, the village taxpayers are paying that part of your wages. Okay? Thank you.
Eric Reynolds, 64 Kircher Park. Last week I spoke about the mayor wanting a credit card from the village. On considering that further, I continue to find that to be a very, very bad idea. The way that the credit cards are set up in the village now, someone, supervisor, has to approve those, has the chance to say that that's not a good way to, or a good charge. Well, there's no one to look over the mayor. If the mayor says, I charge this, then who's going to say that's not any good? Is Josette going to say that? Because you can fire her, right? So that's a terrible, terrible idea. Secondly, the board is supposed to approve any money that is to be spent. By having a credit card, it's not going to be approved by the board. It's going to be approved by the mayor. That doesn't seem right. The money that goes out of the village needs to be approved by the board prior to it being spent. That's why we have resolutions to spend money. It just goes against the whole nature of how the village is supposed to work. I think it's a very bad idea, and I think that the board should think very long and hard before approving the mayor having a village credit card. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, may I speak for a moment?
Absolutely.
John DeWolf, 725 Krieger Road, Webster. I am still trying to find out if you're going to be putting in that skating rink down here on where the skate,
Veterans Park?
yeah,
I don't believe so. Not at this time. No.
I hope never. Because that would be a very bad idea. The Legion would be very much up in arms about it, and they would shut it down very fast.
Well, I appreciate that.
You're more than welcome, sir.
Good evening. Well, if there's no one else this evening, I'll close down the public comment section and we'll move right into village board business. So the first thing up we have this evening is a resolution to approve the minutes of the village board meeting of January 8th.
Ippolito,
Aye.
trustee Byers,
Aye.
trustee Lancy,
Aye.
trustee Belkane, Mayor Cahill,
Aye.
motion passes.
Next is a resolution to approve claims and warrants. I went through the bills this afternoon. I had a few questions. Jake, thanks for your expeditious responses, and Josette also. Does anyone else have any questions?
Jake, quick question. Yes. DJM Equipment? Yes, it's Bobcat of the Finger Lakes. Which I don't know what page that is.
Page 5,
How much is it?
there's two of them, 345 and 242.
Here, the tires we had to get for the small Bobcat, and I believe the hardware, et cetera, is the plow blade, or the plow blades, or the cutting edges for the plow and the associated hardware that came with it.
Yeah, I just questioned a couple of them, that some of them went back to like August and October, and I was just wondering how come. The Empire State Weekly's one on page 1 was August 1st, 2014 was the date of it.
They had not billed for a while. They must have been cleaning up their accounts, and that's why they were late.
Okay.
The same thing I think I believe you have found with Webster Auto Parts.
Yeah, that was another one.
I was trying to clean the account up because there was an outstanding balance,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't do that without throwing in the invoices from, I think it was September and October.
October, yeah. Okay, very good. That was my only question.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve the claims and warrants.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lancy,
Aye.
trustee Belkane,
Aye.
trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
trustee Byers,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill,
Aye.
motion passes.
All right, next is a resolution to establish the village election for Wednesday, March 18th, and also to set the polling place to be the community meeting hall at 29 South Avenue. And the hours for which the polls will be open will be from 12 p.m. to 12 p.m. noon to 9 p.m. So I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make that
Just to
motion.
notice these dates and times.
I'll second it.
Trustee Byers,
Aye.
trustee Lancy,
Aye.
trustee Belkane,
Aye.
trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill,
Aye.
motion passes.
Attorney White, do you have anything for us this evening?
No, I don't.
I forgot to mention to you, I haven't heard anything from your office regarding McCoy.
It's in my to-do list.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, office is next, Josette. I see that you have provided us with the financial statements for December. So if anyone has any questions regarding those statements? Okay, well then I'll entertain a motion a second to accept December's financial statements at this time, as provided to us by our village clerk, Josette.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane,
Aye.
trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
trustee Byers,
Aye.
trustee Lancy,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill,
Aye.
motion passes. Next,
Pardon?
next, we have, Chris is gonna do.
Okay.
We recently closed the Chase HSA account that we had at Chase. Tuesday, we received a check for $70,847, which was deposited into the village savings account at Candigo National on Tuesday. HSA account with Chase was opened and funded in February of 2010. In 2011, the employee HSA accounts were funded specifically from those funds. Ever since that time, that account has only been used to fund new hire HSA accounts. So if someone was hired in the middle of the year, that account was drawn upon to fund their personal HSA account. My question to the board today is to ask you, do you wish to open a new bank account at CNB to hold these funds for future new hires? My personal recommendation is not to do that, just to keep it in the village savings account and to fund accounts as they become necessary from the village savings account. I don't see the need or purpose or necessity for a separate account at CNB for this type of an account.
Not to that degree, because, you know, the amount of new hires are pretty negligible, so we'd be tying up $70,000, which is, I believe that's why you're recommending that we don't establish it.
Right. It was originally opened in 2010, and the original funding of the account was $200,000. So, over the 5 years, obviously the funds have dwindled. What was left was the $70,847.
What year was that account open?
2010.
That's only funded new, which is either 2,000 or 4,000 now currently, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
If we fund a new person in mid-year, if it's individual, it's 2,000, if it's family, it's 4,000, something like that.
2,200 for an individual and 4,400 for a family.
The account was established for new hires. Chris, I don't know if you've looked into the details, but if that account was established for new hires,
I did search through board minutes from that time frame.
You did or you did not?
I did. For time frame from even September 2009 through when the account was open, I made the assumption that there would have had to be some type of authorization for the funding to happen.
Right.
I did not find anything.
So we don't know what that money was used for, to take it from 200,000 to 70,000.
Oh, I know what it was used for. It was used exactly to fund new hires. It was only used for HSA funding, not for anything else.
But just for new hires or for existing employees also?
I think
Yes.
existing.
Must be
Yes.
existing
Yeah, it's
also.
gotta be existing.
Remember though also that it was established in 2010, February. The HSA funding for 2011 was completely funded out of there. So that was probably about $85,000.
That makes
And then from that point
makes more
on,
sense.
it was just new hires coming on.
I got you, okay.
That's better.
I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear
Yeah, that-
earlier. Do you have any other questions about this?
I'm confident with your recommendations.
So the funds may stay where they are in the village savings account, and as things come up, then we'll come to the board for authorization, as we always have in the past.
Sure.
Thank you.
You comfortable with that? Yeah.
Do we need,
Do we need a motion for that?
yeah, that's what I was asking.
I don't know,
I think
is
so.
this
They're
some
already
kind
used.
of, is this some kind of a reserve account?
It was not established as a reserve account.
But isn't any kind of savings account
It
in
wasn't.
effect a reserve account? I'm just thinking about it. Shouldn't HSA accounts be funded out of the current budgets?
That's what they are.
Yeah.
They are, except for that 2011, I'd have to look back to, I believe each year's HSA funding is funded through the budget.
Yes.
But I don't find specific detail as to how this 200,000 came into the account.
But it sounds like in effect what someone did was in effect set up a reserve account for new hires just for to fund HSA accounts. Money was set aside
Yes,
for
But you
future
can't
years.
find, but you couldn't
That's
find
like
anything in the minutes
I
that
don't find a
delineated
resolution to
that.
that
It
effect.
sounds like it's a reserve account that probably is an illegal reserve account because it wasn't established
Correct.
correctly.
Correct.
Another one.
Yeah.
I think the monies probably should not even be still segregated in a separate savings account. They should, the money should end up going into the general, the general unexpended balance fund, or whatever that money is.
Which is the same place.
Okay, also, it's in the same place. then,
Yes.
but-
It answers that question.
Okay. So I wouldn't even, if there's I would take a motion to extinguish if it's a separate account and just,
Well, that's what, it's
you
gone.
know, and in the future, if you have a new hire and you gotta fund you
That's what
you fund it out of the current budget. You have, there's a contingency line,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's places where you can find the, you know,
Yes.
$2,200 or $40,
Right.
you know.
Yes.
And this should just meld into the unallocated
Fund
general
balance.
fund balance.
Yep.
All right, well, then I'll entertain a motion in a second to extinguish this account.
It is.
it is.
It already is, right? All right, we're done.
Then do we have to have anything to move the money to where it is? We don't.
It's already there.
It's already there.
But we don't have to do anything legally to, even though it's already been done.
No, I think the treasurer as the
All right.
Okay, you already
fiscal
closed it.
officer of the village has done the right thing by closing that account and putting it with the fund balance, so.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're square.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, once again, Christine, I appreciate your due diligence in this matter as well as the others. Especially regarding the reserve accounts that you investigated and found that were not established legally, so. All right, well,
And I will get back to you in June tomorrow.
unless anybody has anything else for Christina regarding this issue this evening, we'll move on to Mr. Will.
I will say on a side note that I did contact the new HSA company and I didn't have any problems. Got online, established an online banking account or whatever you want to call it, had no problems, so. And the person on the phone was actually nice, so.
Along those, I apologize for interrupting, but I neglected to thank Christina for meeting with the members of our employees this afternoon. Had some pizza and chicken wings because I knew there were some hiccups when establishing this new account. But I really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to meet with everyone over lunch and explain to them exactly what has transpired. So thank you for that also. Sorry, Will.
No,
Apologize for interrupting you.
sure. And I appreciate all that Christina's done too. I know it's been frustrating, so, but hopefully we're past the obstacles and the stumbling blocks. Okay, make a long story short, you guys have the report before you. I'll just entertain any questions.
What's the status of East Main Street there next to Sun Automotive?
If you look at the report, under legal, they're listed. So in February, we go back.
Okay, the wheels are still
February.
turning.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, these unregistered vehicles, these are initial letters, I take it?
Correct. These are the friendly letters.
What's you building on Hefner there? Just an addition or?
Oh, 93 Hefner?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's an in-law apartment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we allow that as long as they use the same kitchen as the house has, you know, but the problem is if we try and avoid having something like that that has its all separate, you know, bedroom, kitchen, everything like that, because we don't want it to become an apartment later on. But, yeah, the amazing thing about that is I talked to the homeowner and I said, you know, this addition probably costs more than the original house. So,
And actually, that's actually a true statement, because there's a gentleman on Champion that was considering putting in a second floor over his garage, and it would have cost him more than he paid for the entire house that he purchased probably 15 years prior to that, so.
Which cell antenna went up on West One?
that would be
You can't even see it. I don't think it's installed yet because they haven't called me for a final. But, what's that?
What was the company?
Oh boy, you would ask me that. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Well, just not me.
Yeah, they're covering a pocket in their coverage that they were having a difficult time with. And it's just a simple little tiny antenna that goes on top that fills that gap.
Anyone else have any questions for Will? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right. DPW is next. Mr. Jake?
Just have a couple things. One, I'm looking for authorization to attend I go from the NIWEA standpoint, it's the New York Water Environment Association's annual conference at one day, no overnight. It's a joint conference with the New York, again, the NIWEA and the Air and Waste Management Association of the Crater Lakes region. It's an annual seminar, and it's kind of timely considering what was the discussion earlier tonight in regards to the water, from a sanitary sewer standpoint. And, we meet with regulators. Some of the folks there are from the New York State, DEC, and other individuals in the same and similar trades and professions. So it's something I go to every year, and usually it's pretty insightful.
Are you going to be following track 2 or track 4?
Track 1, actually,
Track one.
the water session. It's got the sewer authority, Buffalo Sewer Authority long-term control plan. Some of the other water intake regulations aren't as applicable, but sometimes during these little breaks, I might try to skip around and see if there's something that's more appropriate than that. But it's usually the ones that are the water session, especially Pradeep, the engineer down there for the New York State DEC, is someone that we'll talk to and interface with on a semi-regular basis if we have any questions or concerns, some compliance issues or questions regarding the sewage treatment plant. So it's nice to meet up with them. And again, you get different people from sewage treatment plants around the area that are there as well. And I always say we're not the first one to come across any sort of issue, so it's nice when you got a bunch of like-minded people in there. I can pick their brain, and I want to say borrow their ideas, but I usually don't return them. So just,
Anybody else have any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to fund the conference for Jake.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lancy? Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Believe it or not, I have a couple more things if I can. Real quick, Advocacy Day is coming up. The Western New York Village Superintendent's Association typically sends folks down along with Monroe County, Department DOT, the village DPWs are represented, and the town for this area. We go down to Albany. It's one day a year. I haven't been in 2 or 3 years. You go down there the night before or the day before, and you meet, and then the second day you go and meet with the legislators in their offices in Albany. We usually have pass out some orange T-shirts, so everybody has a big sea of orange going up there. We advocate for usually the themes of local roads matter, and we go there and advocate for funding with CHIPS funding. Last year, I think because of those efforts, because of the winter, we had the efforts that we had advocating for it. We were able to get, it was a $40 million relief fund that went statewide to help with some additional work that was needed because of the winter time. This year, like I said, I haven't gone in a few years. There's no cost to the village for hotels or overnight. It's just the Western New York Superintendent's Association covers those costs. So I guess from make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's standpoint, I kind of like authorization to go. So I'm traveling for for village business, I guess. Making sure that everybody knows where I am. That's March, oh boy, I forgot the right day. I want to say 3rd and 4th. Or 3rd or 4th or 4th and 5th. It's the first week of March when we go down there and meet with our local representatives.
When you're down there, do you have an opportunity to advocate for specific projects within your municipality, or is it just to advocate to have more funding from Albany for all municipalities across the state?
It's kind of a show of force thing that, hey, there's a whole bunch of people there that care and they're all talking about. It's kind of one message that we're trying to get across from that standpoint. Certainly, when you go in, it's kind of funny because our representatives from this area, we know, we see Mark Johns all the time, we see Simon Mazzoli all the time. We know our representatives, but to go there and travel and meet with them again and go there as part of a group, I think it says a lot. And we're going around and we see that big sea of orange walking around the Capitol, or the offices there. I think they notice sometimes, I want to say, because we're fighting for the funding, and that's frankly where we get a lot of the funding for our local roads. You'll see it in the budget every year. It's CHIPS funding. That's a Consolidated Highway Improvement Program. It's not Podge and John there. What's his name?
Yeah.
The guys from the California Highway Patrol. But it's that funding that helps us do a lot of the local work that we do here. It's a very important.
Well, I think this year, even it's more important this year, but perhaps in prior years, given the fact that, New York State, has a $5.1 billion windfall as a result of the lawsuits that were settled. And, I know that it was in a paper recently that the governor has allocated $1.3 billion of that monies to go to the Thruway Authority, which is obviously going to be, directed to the Tappan Zee Bridge project. So I think it's absolutely important that you attend and as a group advocate for as much money to come back to the state or to the local municipalities as possible, because as you're well aware of, the state has funding to local municipalities has decreased over the last few years, which is the Monroe County Association of Mayors is heavily advocating for some of those monies from that settlement to come back to the municipalities. And this is just one more avenue that you can advocate for that money. So I greatly appreciate the fact that you are willing to go down there to advocate for these municipalities and specifically for the village of Webster. So, like I talked to you about earlier, just make sure that, if you take your own vehicle, make sure you get reimbursed for your mileage.
I think it's
Be
good
safe.
mileage now in a Thruway. I'm excited to see how high I can get.
Well, unless anybody else has any comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion second for Jake to go to the conference.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye. Thank you, Jake.
Motion passes.
What else?
One more.
We're not done yet.
No, not that.
Vegas.
My poor kid had to listen to me for about 2 hours the other day talking about sneakers, so
Yeah,
this will be quicker.
that was a good story, by the way.
Some time ago, we started work, and I'm glad we have been working at it and putting it together. It's been something I wanted to do for the last 5 years, and we're getting to it. Is the vehicle replacement policy and a vehicle replacement plan. It's not 100% complete. I've got 2015 pretty well sketched out. I've got the next 5 years a pretty decent plan, and I've got some rotations built into it. I'd like to see if we put that on the agenda for the workshop. Certainly send it out ahead of time, get some information. I'm still waiting. This is a terrible time of the year to do any of these things, because when the certain bids come out that you're try to piggyback off a county bid, because it saves you a lot of the time and effort and money, frankly, in doing a one-off bid and developing those specs, and also with the holidays and everything else. It's been quite a challenge. I had one one of the places I got a quote from that was off of the bid, I think it took, what we were discussing yesterday, I think it was 5 weeks to get the bid, and they wanted that truck, they said I had to have an order in by February 6th, or that was the cutoff for that particular vehicle, so I don't think we're gonna end up going with that one, because I'm certainly not gonna have time to get everything authorized, and it wasn't the lowest one anyway, so, and I think other ones would sooner needs better, but I wanted to see if we could put that on any workshop agenda for next Tuesday, and start, talk about that, and see if we can, maybe have a budget modification to do the 2015 ones, and then Chris and I have also been working on the reserve account, the establishment of those reserve accounts, and we're gonna be working with Don, just making sure we're doing it properly for vehicle replacements, civilians, and things like that, so.
It's, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this for a couple months, if not longer, and, you've been working very diligently getting these numbers together, so we're gonna have a very interesting and full schedule at our next workshop meeting, because we also, as you know, we have a presentation from a company coming in to talk about solar panels, specifically related at this point to the sewage treatment plant in an effort to save money on energy costs. I'm not aware, I don't know if everyone is aware of the fact that Exelon and RG&E are currently in negotiations with respect to the Gannett power plant, but there is a chance that we will see significant increases in our electricity bill, and one of the a very high expenditure at the sewage treatment plant is our electricity bill, which we budget $62,000 a year. So if there's an opportunity for us to look into possibly saving money, well, we're going to complete our due diligence in that manner. There's also another company coming in, I didn't write down the name of it, but they were highlighted in the Rochester Business Journal recently regarding some pretty innovative work that they've done across the state regarding sewage treatment plants to reduce their energy consumption and to capture some of the methane. And they have two test sites, one in Bath and one in Ithaca currently, but it's pretty interesting and innovative engineering that they're doing. So they're also coming in to do a presentation. So it's going to be a very informative workshop meeting on February 3rd, and we're also going to have some preliminary budget discussions at that meeting, and also hand in hand with that will also go the discussion regarding the reserve accounts, specifically to elaborate on the numbers that you've come up. So absolutely, we'll get that on the schedule. There's no way you're done now. There's got to be something else. Tell us a sneaker story. That was a good one.
I don't know if they have enough tape.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else have anything else before we turn the phones on? All right, at this time we're going to open up the phone lines. The number to call is 265-3772 if you'd like to call in. We'd ask that you would please give us your name and address. In the way of announcements, the next village workshop will be February 3rd. Our next village board meeting subsequent to that will be the February 12th, and the last village board meeting in February will be the 26th. Good evening. Hello?
If you drink too much of the water, you'll turn out like Peter.
I was going to get faster on that trigger.
Gotta ask for the payment stuff right away.
That's a good thing.
All right. I guess that's it for the phone calls. So at this time, we're going to adjourn the meeting for legal advice from our attorney regarding the Wellfield property. These discussions fall under attorney-client privilege, and